we can look at that and be more efficient and be more effective. And that is unapologetically prioritizing, not just saying, here, do more faster. It's let's think about this really critically and strategically.
Good morning.
Morning. How are
good
you?
to have you. So we're going to do a little fireside chat this morning, and so let me tell you a little bit about Teresa. She is the founder and CEO of Liminist, where she coaches executives and leadership teams to prioritize unapologetically, and there's a lot to that. Lead effectively under pressure and create meaningful results without burning themselves or their people out. A former marketing exec and agency leader, Teresa is also a co-author of the Purpose Playbook. Her recently released TEDx talk, which is just wonderful, titled "Saying I'm Sorry is Undermining Your Leadership." She explores there how seemingly harmless language can quietly diminish our authority, clarity, and impact.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Guy, for that
Absolutely.
introduction. I appreciate it.
Well, Teresa, it is so good to have you today. But one question, you've just done your TEDx talk, and I was absolutely amazed at how good of a speaker you are, and the topic. And the topic is about saying I'm sorry. So, what does saying I'm sorry have to do with leadership?
I'm so happy you asked this question, Guy. And before we get to the leadership piece, I really want to spend time clarifying what I mean when I'm saying, don't say I'm sorry. And one of the key points is really what people, so the moment people hear me say this, is they start thinking, oh, women say that all the time, or that's a Southern thing, or I lived in England and they say I'm sorry for everything. And that's not the kind of I'm sorries that I am talking about, not the cultural norms or the values or the courtesies, not those kinds of I'm sorries. It's really the kind of I'm sorries we say, excuse me, it's really the kind of I'm sorries we say when we've done nothing wrong. And when you look at it from a leadership perspective, a lot of times, especially when we're feeling tired and hijacked, and it's been a long series of years with lots of transformations, and you start feeling worn down, you really start feeling like you need to apologize because you're taking up space. And so then simple things like, I'm sorry, I need to go pick up my kid, or I'm sorry, I can't make that 8 a.m. meeting you last minute put on my calendar. Those start chipping away at us, and it really impacts our ability to show up as confident leaders.
Marketing's operating system has been replaced. Not upgraded, not improved. Replaced, completely and totally replaced. AI isn't a tool you bolt onto your existing marketing organization. It's a fundamental redesign of how marketing thinks, operates, and creates value. And most CMOs are already behind. The AI marketing machine is the field guide for marketing leaders who want to get ahead of that curve. Built on more than a decade of the marketing machine methodology and interviews with over 100 CMOs, this book shows you how to harness generative and analytic AI together, without losing the human edge that makes great marketing unforgettable. This isn't theory, this is the playbook. How to redesign your team, how to build AI into the foundation of how you work, how to prove ROI in the boardroom, and how to lead the intelligent marketing machine that wins in the marketplace. Marketing's future is already here. The question is whether you're building it or watching someone else do it. The AI marketing machine, available now.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And I'm wondering, and hopefully we'll get into that, is the male versus the female side of leadership and leaders. And but so what kinds of things are capable leaders often apologizing for when they shouldn't?
Well, oh goodness, there's so many things. One is from a personal perspective, and I've mentioned a couple of them when we need to pick up our kids or our way of working. One of my favorites is the way of working, and I have to chuckle, Guy, because this happened to us last night, in that your way of working is you get through your workday and then you start thinking about the next day, and it's 7 o'clock at night, 7:45 at night, and meanwhile I've been up since 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm done. And that was a great example of my first inclination was to text back, I'm sorry, I can't. Well, no, I'm not sorry. This is the way I work. I'm going to be confident in the way I work. And what I like to talk about is it isn't this concept of say no. That doesn't make anybody feel good. No one likes to receive a no, and we don't like to convey a no. It's the say what you need and share what you'll give. And I chose to respond back to you saying, well, I did say, alas, no. Yet then I said, how about we talk in the morning? How about we talk on the way in? You said, oh, great idea. How about I send you questions tonight while you were thinking about it? So then you were able to share with me how you need, what you need, and what you'll give to me. And
You're so right, though, and sometimes you just have a lot of
mm-hmm,
priorities, and and I think where you're going with the unapologetic saying I'm sorry is has to do with
mm-hmm,
prioritization,
mm-hmm.
and so my priorities at the time. I mean, I would have loved to have gotten to you earlier, and you had already.
Mm-hmm.
Being the person that you are, being highly prepared, and I'm very jealous. But in any case, it was fascinating to see and how you use that as an example. One thing, though, that unfortunately can happen is burnout,
Yes.
and that. And how do you know when people are when you're starting to get burned out? And is then the saying "I'm sorry" is that like a sign for that?
There's a whole there's a whole like saying you're sorry and being burnt out. There's a long journey between the two, and burnout is just completely inability to show up. It's how you talk to people, shortness and sarcasm and lack of patience, and then really full burnout is just your inability to get up and to go to work. If Why am I talking about I'm sorry? Where saying I'm sorry and burnout is that sorry is a signal of drift. It's one of the many things that we can look out for that I call drift kinds of moments that show a signal so we can get ahead of burnout long before it happens. And if we think about showing up to work and we have this amazing employee that we so thoroughly enjoy working with, and that employee all of a sudden starts saying, I'm sorry for this, or I'm sorry for that, or I can't, or something shifts, we as leaders, if we're very aware of that, very in tune with that, we can then start saying, okay, what's really going on with this person and what kind of help can I need them? What's really going on with this person and what kind of help can I provide to them so they no longer feel like they need to say, I'm sorry. So I'm sorry isn't the whole solution to everything. It's one signal. It's one moment that we can watch out for.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's so true. And now let me just change the topic here a little bit. And of course, I just wrote my book, The AI Marketing
Mm-hmm.
Machine, and I know you have a book as well, and we'll talk a little bit about that towards the end. But one of the things that AI does is it makes it possible for us to do more. And I was going to say do more stuff, but do more to me means
Mm-hmm.
do more things of high value.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it means to to amplify what you're doing, not just do more stuff and have more activity. How do you see that as it relates to this unapologetic prioritization?
Well, you and I are very much in agreement. The challenge with AI is people here do more, and it's this whole thing of, oh, we need less people, or it really at the end of the day the expectations are higher that we can get more done in a shorter period of time, and that is again a recipe for burnout. My What I like to do when I work with people, especially people who are just overwhelmed with AI, is the first step is what what are we trying to accomplish? Begin with the end in mind. Second, what matters most? As you look at the end, what you're trying to accomplish, that North Star, that goal, what matters most in that journey? And then the third is as you look at the different steps that you're going to take in that journey, what can be done by that person? What can be done by automation? What can be done by AI, generative AI, agentic AI, analytic AI, all of these different tools that are out there, we can look at that and be more efficient and be more effective. And that is unapologetically prioritizing, not just saying, here, do more faster. It's let's think about this really critically and strategically.
Yeah, how true, how true. And the worst thing is that as you I guess everybody always has a full plate. And
Mm.
whether you're the leader or the mid tier or whether you're the junior person, we always have a full plate. And I think marketers are even worse. Is that if their plate gets empty, they
Mm-hmm.
fill it with 10 times more
Right.
stuff, and they're working like crazy to do stuff. And then they see AI, and AI comes along and it says, "Hey, I could do this either better or I could do even more stuff." And so the question to me quite often is, how can I do what I'm doing, but really in much higher quality? And I think that's one thing. And how do you see that as it relates to unapologetic prioritization?
Well, AI is really putting a spotlight on something that we as leaders, as teams, don't do very well, which is exposing all the tasks that it takes to complete something. We tend to just do it, and we make assumptions around what it takes to complete it efficiently and effectively. So step one is exposing all those tasks. And let's get down into the nitty gritty details, handoffs, assumptions we're making, task. Well, I keep saying the word task, but really it is a task based answer. So that's number one. Number two is, what do we need? What is really necessary and not necessary? There's this great research study that was done with Legos, with adults and children. And the adults, when given an uneven Lego bridge, adults take a Lego and they add it to make it even. Kids take away. We somehow, along our maturity, feel like we need to add more and add more and add more. How can AI, not even just how can AI help us use more AI? How can this age of AI help us pause, take a moment, and see all the things that we're doing and what is truly needed and what can we discard?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, and I hate that analogy, but I guess I've grown used to it. Is the cup half full or the cup half empty? Should the bridge be, should we take away from the bridge or should we add
Mm-hmm.
to it? That's a great metaphor. I really appreciate that. So, one of the challenges though with AI, and you mentioned agentic, which is really, I think, the next big thing, is how do you now set the priorities so that you can take advantage of it and really make sure that you're meeting those priorities with as you said, with the end in mind, building this with the end of the mind. And then of course, how can leaders then make sure that they can feel heard, that they're
Mm-hmm.
heard? And so talk a little bit about that.
One of the things I talk about in my talk is about how change is hard. And I've been brought in throughout my career to transform organizations long before, well, when you and I were talking about machine learning. So long before this concept of AI was brought in. And what I realized is, yes, I was brought in to change things. And it wasn't up to me to apologize, and so I wouldn't. I would just continue to move forward. What I learned then, and what I really have learned now as an executive and teams coach, is we don't have to apologize for making the change. What we do need to do is make sure that person feels heard, that we are empathetic on how it impacts them as humans. And so, not saying, I'm sorry this is happening to you and we got to do it. It's more, I understand the impact it's making on you. I understand how you feel about that impact, and let's have a constructive conversation on how can we make you feel more comfortable, or helping you understand that once we get to this part, once we get that learning piece, that icky learning change piece, that there is another side, that it will be better for you and your job will be more fun, more enjoyable, and you'll get a lot more done in a really smart way.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so true. So let me change topics altogether.
Yeah.
Now we mentioned the TEDx talk that you've done.
Hmm.
What was that experience like, and why did you do it, and what was the genesis of you doing a TEDx talk?
Oh, goodness. A while back, when I was first starting my company, Luminist, a wonderful woman led a bunch of us through a vision board exercise, which I highly recommend. If you haven't done it yet, I highly recommend doing a vision board exercise. And on that vision board, I had the TEDx logo. I love being a thought leader. I love sharing key messages in hopes that it changes someone's life, that gets them thinking differently and showing up better. And so TED to me just really felt like a great lofty goal that I thought I would never be able to accomplish. And then comes along Corinne Canty. She has done now 2 TED Talks, and she wanted to put together a group of people who had this vision, who on their vision board had TED Talk, and help us craft those stories. And I went ahead and did that. And she helped me come up with a topic. And then TEDx Buckhead Ave, Tasha White's Modex Studio, she's a licensee for TED. She decided, okay, come join us for Power of We. And that happened in September of 2025. And again, it just these series of people and organizations came to my life that helped me make the story better. And what's really fun about AI is it helped me get over the fear of writing and getting things down on paper. But then when I went to start memorizing this talk, I was forced to put it in my own voice, because when you have to memorize something and it makes zero sense to your brain, there is no way it's sticking there. And so then I started moving it into my own voice, and my talk started teaching me. And then lo and behold, to find out that it's a TED editor's pick, truly something must have happened along the way to make it that special. As the recording, I am about to hit 17,000 views.
Wow.
So I have made an impact on 17,000 people so far. And I'm really hoping that they figure out how to show up as their better selves, because they're no longer apologizing for something that they didn't do anything wrong for.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's so amazing. Editor's pick. I mean, that's just fantastic. And when you talk about your vision board, that you had this lofty goal. I think that's one thing that is so critical for any leader, is to not just have, well, let's do 5% better or 10% better, but to have some lofty goal against which which you want to work against. And the thing is, you might actually achieve it.
Yeah.
And in your case, in most cases, you actually do achieve that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's wonderful. So congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
It's really,
Thank you.
I'm so glad to be your friend on
Well, we
that.
both have achieved lofty, amazing goals.
It is amazing. The other thing, though, I wanted to mention, and maybe talk a little bit about this, when you do something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and so when I wrote my book on the Only Witness, it added a circle to my life, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. So there's all these circles. There's my marketing business and my pro relevant, and then this and the AMA and all these other kinds of things, and then now I have another circle. So in that respect, you have this new circle. So what kinds of things are you seeing out of that?
Oh, I love that you said circle, because one of the things that I've been trying to figure out is how do I tie those circles together. So one thing I'm seeing is, again, who am I and what do I represent and what impact do I want to make on this world? How do I want to leave it? And the this circle, this TED Talk circle, enables me to talk about one symptom or one moment of drift that we can recognize and try to get ahead of this concept of burnout. There's so many speakers out there talking about burnout and their own experiences with burnout, and I experienced burnout. And that circle then leads me to, okay, I want to talk about burnout, but what leads up to burnout, and how can we avoid burnout? And what tools can we teach? How can we pause, reflect, reframe what success looks like, reframe how we talk about success, reframe how we talk about what we need and how we're going to share our message with others. So that tied it together. And then you have the fact that I play golf and the fact that I love vacation. But again, those circles all come together because it's me trying to be successful, trying to make an impact in that world, but then also living that in a way, living by an example. And then, of course, I like bringing golf messages back to business because golf is life. We think soccer is life, but golf is also life, and it's a great indication of business. Uh, so that's one aspect, is how do I bring those circles together into one cohesive messaging plan? Another circle that I have found interesting is how can I get my message out there? And I love one-to-one executive coaching, yet we're all constrained. Time, that's time for dollars, right? We're all constrained. So then, okay, then how can I do it for teams? How can I do it for companies? I've created a leadership membership with people, which hopefully you will join someday, that we meet weekly and talk about how we can avoid burnout, how this mentality that we're looking, and it's training, it's exercising your brain. So it's those kinds of things that how can I, and then from a speaking perspective, this then opens me up to do more speaking opportunities. So then I can reach an even broader audience. And that's, I'm really seeing this new chapter in my career really come to life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that circle is going to be an enormous one.
Lots of little circles
And
in
then,
one
yeah,
big.
that's right. Well, fantastic. So before we close, two other questions. One, you've written a book,
Yes.
and then where can we find that, and what was the book all about? And then, of course, where can we reach you and learn more about you and get to know you and your all of the cool leadership things that you're doing?
Well, what's really interesting about the book, so the book is the Purpose Playbook, and I wrote it with my co-authors, Jeff Hillemeyer and Megan Barney. And again, our words teach us. We believe we're teaching others. Our words teach us. And through the Purpose Playbook, the book we wrote together, that can be found on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, is we realize that teams, if they don't know how to hold their own priorities, if they don't know how to have constructive conflict and commit to something and hold each other accountable in a way where they don't have to apologize, they don't have to feel guilty, they don't have to do all those things, then the Purpose Playbook can't be successful. These other things need to be put into place first. So, yes, I have written a book. I have found that the times that I've been able to run the playbook with teams, that we end up having to take a step back and ask this really great question of what's truly going on here that's keeping us from moving forward more efficiently and more effectively. So that's the book. That's my the reason why I started here, but then I'm working my way back to here to figure out how when we do run the Purpose Playbook, how do we do it in a way that it really propels that organization forward without any hurdles. I mentioned, so Guy, thank you for having me. I run an organization called Liminist, and you might know the word liminal and liminal state or liminality. It is that state of being in the middle, of between and betwixt middle state. And depending how you look at it, some people get stuck there and they feel not great about being in this liminal state, and others just enjoy it. If we give ourselves that time to pause, the area of discovery can really be something truly beautiful. The IST is specialist. I am. Liminist is an organization that full of specialists that help teams, leaders, companies really get through that liminal state, explore it fully, and get to the other side and move forward effectively. So that's Liminist. And I can be found at theliminist.com. You can learn all about my services there and learn more about the talks that I give and how I help teams and companies. You can also follow me on LinkedIn. I'm Teresa Caro there, and also I have a business site there, Liminist. And if you would like to watch fun videos like this, you can see me on YouTube at Unapologetic Prioritization on YouTube. Thank you, Guy, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. It's so good to have you and so good to hear about what you've done and all of that. Really, really cool things. And I'm so proud of you to have done the TEDx talk. I'm very jealous.
Well,
But fantastic. Congratulations on everything.
hopefully something will have you up there on that red dot
Yeah.
is yourself talking about this great message that you have to
Yeah,
share with
exactly.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.